At what exact point does a woman decide to leave, or what is the cause? Because we understand there has to be a cause and effect relationship, and as is often the case with men, she once loved, was compliant, but all that changed. And today we will discuss what that turning point was. But before I start listing specific situations where everyone will recognize themselves, their own case, their past experience, I want to emphasize the fact that if a man doesn't take a clear, strong position, even an insignificant minor catalyst can cause everything to go downhill. This is extremely important to understand, and the first such innocent event I'll mention will be a change of job or place of study. It seems, how is that? What does it have to do with anything? It's very simple. The social circle changes, new hobbies appear. So, first, the woman's attention shifts. She lived the man's life, had more free time, now less. She starts giving you a little less attention. She might see you a little less often. And what do you do at this moment? You get offended. New friends also appear, but that's not so critical. And the situation is critical, especially if it's a male-dominated team where more than one man is paying attention. That is, her sense of self-importance grows. The next scenario is already a classic. If we're talking about conflict, one conflict situation is already capable of leading to such events, where you were blamed, and it doesn't matter if you were actually at fault or not, it makes no difference. The woman chose you once, with an inner feeling, and you are truly guilty and go to apologize, or you are not guilty and go to apologize. To your instincts, there's no difference. And in this context, you were so principled, right? Never went first, but here you suddenly thought, well, maybe I was a bit harsh. I'm a man, I'll take the first step. You did. And you know what else happens? Sometimes a man not only took a strong position initially, but there was even a kind of disregard for the woman, and she feels uncomfortable, but she won't leave him. However, she wants more. The man is indifferent, which is also not right. However, it's enough for one situation to occur, just one, where you suddenly show her that she's upset, she distances herself, and you suddenly go to reconcile. Here she understands, aha, that's how it should have been. Therefore, conflict situations are of particular importance, and treat them with caution. It's not a trifle. Who came first? Who made up first? Who apologized? Next catalyst. What if a woman becomes interested in another man? Is that possible in a relationship? Possible. But there need to be reasons. What kind? Were you inattentive? Didn't show care? No. That's not it. You didn't take a strong position, she wasn't getting the right emotions, or it's an incompatible partner, to put it mildly. When you don't provide emotions, something else can easily interest her, and a love triangle forms. And you have no chances now. Why? He is something new. There's no negativity there. There's nothing yet. It's just the beginning. On the contrary, it's interesting. And you've already been a disappointment. The thrill of the chase. The woman will say, I'm confused. I've mentioned repeatedly, you need to be the first to exit a love triangle. That's the only right decision. I'd also like to note that when a man's job involves travel, meaning a month, 2 months, possibly more, you're long distance with the woman. Can this lead to her seemingly falling out of love with you? Yes, it can. Men have this ability to not see each other, but it's as if nothing has changed. That is, you could not see her for 2 months, you treat her exactly the same. But a woman? A woman? No. You know how it is? At first you leave, and suddenly you read dozens or hundreds of messages, emojis, I miss you, I miss you. It's so hard. But 2 weeks, 3, maybe a month pass. You look, and she's not suffering anymore. That is, at first it's great sorrow, and after a while, adaptation. I'm not saying that 100% of women will necessarily leave you if you don't see each other for a significant period of time. I'm saying that such a probability and risk exists, and it's significant. Another interesting situation is when a man cheats. What happens next? When all secrets come to light, the man, of course, feels uncomfortable and awkward. And her? She feels hurt, angry, and negative. And the man thinks, well, I need to make amends somehow. It didn't turn out well. I'm not raising the ethical, moral, or philosophical side of the issue here. No, we're not talking about that. We're only talking about instincts. And if we're only talking about instincts, even in this situation, when you go and try to reconcile, the instinct has such an effect that she will be even more offended. Why? It's beneficial. You'll apologize more, and you're still giving her emotional resources. And in the future, if a man follows the script that, I will now be good, she breaks up with him. Suddenly he's not needed. She does this with the words, I still can't forgive you for this. But is that really the case? No, that's not true. She just explained it to herself that way. In reality, you simply lost the balance of importance with your own actions. And there's another scenario. That's the story where a woman outgrows a man. What's embedded in this concept? In general, you shouldn't build serious relationships with women who have a lot of ambition, because such a woman has a very strong need for the man to be superior and to consequently look up to him. If it ever happens in life that you switch places or she at least catches up, the significance will immediately decline. Yes, there's a scenario where a girl goes back to her ex. And almost always, of course, she goes back to the ex who once broke up with her, to whom she was attached. Why? Simply because there's a fierce, unresolved gestalt there. And this whole thing has no statute of limitations, meaning if he broke up with her 3 years ago, even in that case, it's quite likely she'll return if he calls. Men sometimes mistakenly confuse mutual feelings with a strong position. Sometimes a man says, I was in a strong position, she missed me and all that. That doesn't signify any expression of affection towards you, or that you're in a strong position. What is a strong position? If, in a nutshell, a strong position is a situation where, first, there are no conflicts, the girl makes up first. The girl doesn't create situations that cause you any upset, right? That she's afraid to upset you. She invests. She cares. That is, you don't have a single internal hint, not even a feeling, that something is wrong. Everything is very transparent and simple. This can be called a strong position. I'd like to point out that the notions of, I didn't propose to her on time, I didn't pay her enough attention, are never the real cause. And many men who are watching this video already know this. Why do they know? It's a standard scenario, isn't it? When you were one way, maybe even inattentive and everything was great. A turning point occurred, one of which I've already listed most likely. And then, when the balance of importance has already shifted, you try to be good. And now tell me, did it help? No, it didn't help, and it won't help. Most likely you're listening now and thinking, yes, relationships are such a fragile thing. She can betray you here, she can leave here. Do I even need them? But in reality, friends, it's not as scary as it might seem at first glance. It all depends on what you are looking for and how you approach it. Relationships are indeed a fragile thing. Divorce statistics clearly confirm this, and such men are not only not immune, but they will definitely find problems where there are none. These men who choose only emotions, that is the only criterion for evaluation. Choosing based on emotions means that you are no longer in a super strong position. That is, you are already dependent, you are already susceptible, you can very easily stumble. Before you get into a relationship, you need to understand, do you even need one? And if so, for what purpose? So, you just need to decide now. If you're looking for something serious, then rational thinking, common sense will be primary. If you need excitement, then you shouldn't try to build a family out of that excitement. You will be the culprit of everything that happens. You can just go with the flow, and that's it. The problem will find you. But to take emotions under control, to engage your brain, that's actually not easy. Very difficult. It turns out that until the crisis stage, a man knows absolutely nothing about relationships. And this is regardless of profession or intellectual development. It could be a scientist or anyone, but still, all these people fall into this trap because they don't understand what relationships are. And you know what happens? Here's one of the differences between men and women. A woman is emotions, a man is more strategic thinking. And in life, yes, this is evident when we make plans, maybe in work, in other areas of life. But when we talk about personal life, suddenly men also become emotional. This will lead to problems. Therefore, strategic thinking, when you can predict the situation at least one step ahead, is a necessity. And addressing perhaps that man who is now experiencing this surge of emotions and knows that this is a problem, that it's clearly not worth it. I just want to remind you that, believe me, those emotional experiences, all that romance you are experiencing now, let's say, at the initial stage of a relationship, it is nothing, compared to the severe consequences that can occur at the breakup stage and possibly even a divorce process. It's just nothing. At that stage, you'll remember that beginning 100 times. When could you have cut it off and just moved on? You didn't. And the later you think about it, the worse. But addressing the subscribers, yes, you have already experienced bitter experiences in your life, and you have drawn the appropriate conclusions. But even you again have the desire to believe in some illusion, to believe in a fairy tale. Even among subscribers, this happens. And this video is another reminder for you. Right now, ask yourself, what do you want to get out of a relationship? If you understand that you're content with a certain calmness, harmony, everything's fine, just good, then start. But if you want a certain intrigue, to be thrilled, or if you want that specific person and no one else, that's also an addiction. And in such a scenario, you absolutely shouldn't be thinking about anything serious. It will end sadly soon, proven. Therefore, to summarize everything said earlier, what conclusions can we draw? I have highlighted the main turning points and what is required on our part. First, choose the right girl, because if the choice is wrong, there will be problems no matter what. Second, take a strong position, and for this, it is necessary to have correct inner convictions first and foremost. And in such a scenario, even crisis situations will not lead to any sad consequences. But still, you need to be ready to react correctly if they do arise. And at the initial stage, to stop them, not to allow them to develop, is quite realistic, and I would even say, very, very simple. Friends, please like, comment, and choose one of the topics for the next videos.